Okay, so today we're going to look at gears, how to set up the gears on a bike. This is an old bike that I've got here, and you can see that the gears aren't working properly. First of all, I've got it set on number 5. Clearly this is on like number 4, so the indexing's out. I just want to check out some other things as well while we're at it. So taking a closer look here at the derailleur, you can see I've got it in one of these nice stands. They're really cheap off eBay, and you can see I can turn the back wheel and this thing folds away. It's quite nice. So looking at the derailleur then, first of all, the first thing that stands out is that wire. Look, it's all frayed and horrible, and when I see that, I'm making the assumption that the wire and the rest of it's a bit frayed and horrible. You see this is a bit rusty here, not looking particularly good. Further up the bike, again, this is looking a bit kinked. Chances are if I leave that cable on, what's going to happen? This is going to break. So you spend all your time setting the gears up and you really have it break. So the best thing to do here, first of all, is to replace that cable. The other thing that happens, obviously, because it's getting old, it'll probably start to stick inside the outer, and it'll be a bit stiff. The gears won't work properly. They won't drop up and down properly. So much better off replacing it. And the cable's like what, £1 or something, not very expensive. It's always worth replacing. Again, you can get them off eBay or Amazon, really for next to nothing. It's worth doing. Okay, so the first thing to do is release the tension on this cable. So stick it into 5th, into its lowest gear, into its highest gear, and then you can see that it's nice and loose. Next thing, take a spanner and we can just undo that nut that's holding the cable in place. It could be on the top, usually on the bottom. So just undo that nut. Not all the way, just so that it's loose, and the cable should come free from its little mounting. So, good pair of wire cutters. Snip that off. The cable should now pull through nice and easily. You see it's all rusted and horrible there. And then further up the bike, got the cable now loose up to this point, and we can pull it through straight onto the lever. So the way that works is, all you do, it's now loose, so I can pull that there, you can push that, and you can see the cable pops out there. And let's have a good look where it pops out so that you can be able to put it back in again. Okay, so we turn that round, and there we are, and I can just pull that out all the way until it's out. And there's the old cable. Throw that away. It's not really long enough for anything that's a bit rusty and horrible. The next thing to do is to check out all the cable outers. So you pull these ones out and have a look. You can see that's in reasonably good condition. What I'm looking for is any nasty big bends at the ends here where the end caps go on. That one seems all right. You can follow it back and have a look at these ones. And again, that seems okay. And then the final one over at the back, not too bad, both ends, so those look okay. I don't need to replace those. Now you can get the cable outer really easily, and you just cut it with a pair of wire cutters, stick a new end piece on. You can buy these end pieces separately, again, for just a few pennies. So always worth putting new ones on if you need them. So there's that, goes through there. Now when I thought about getting a new cable on. So cable goes in, back through the hole again. I can pull it out the other side like that and make sure it's located in there. Then it goes around the back of here. You can see there's a groove in the back there, and we stick it back down through the other hole. So it's gone through the other hole. We can push it down. It's now going down through the cable as well, through the cable outer. Just push it, and we should come to a point where you get field resistance, and then that should have appeared at the other end here, and here it is. So I can now pull that one through, make sure it's all nice up at the top, and check that it's all gone in properly how you want it to. Now that's in. This one particular one feeds down underneath and then pops out here, so we can then feed it into the second one. Same deal, and because you've got a nice new cable, it should just pass really nicely. You try and reuse an old one, it can be a nightmare to get it to go through, so another reason for using a new one. And you can see that's immediately coming out here, and I can pull it through. Check that it's all running in the proper grooves at the other end, because this one's got sort of a bracket underneath where the things run through. Okay, so that's nice and tight now. I'll get my spanner and tighten that up. So here we are again, cable's through, and all I want to do is just put it reasonably firmly. I don't want it to be too tight. Tighten up the nut and then get the spanner and tighten that nut again. Now you have to be careful not to over tighten it. You don't want to thread it, otherwise you have to replace it. Just tight enough so that it holds the cable in place. There we go. Another turn. Should have that done. Okay, that's nice and tight. I forgot to mention that when you do this, you need it in the highest gear. So in this case, there's 5 cogs, so it's going to be in 5th gear. Otherwise the cable tension will be all wrong, but you can see just enough tension to keep it straight, no more. We'll leave the end for now, long and dangly, and we'll trim it later when we've got where we need to be. You can see this one's got an adjuster here as well, so you can loosen it. That should be about half when you set off. And then in this case, there's not one at this end. Quite often here you'll find an adjuster as well, and they're really useful. You can adjust them while you're going along if your gears start to misbehave. This one, we've just got that one, so that's what we're going to use. Now, setting up a derailleur, really quite simple. Initially, there are 2 screws, and you can see the 2 screws here. They'll all have 2 screws, and they're end stops. So you can see on this one, because it's open, that the 2 screws are forming end stops against this thing here. So as I screw one of them in, it'll stop things from going too far this way, and then the other one will stop it from going too far the other way. So here we are, taking the screwdriver. Now I can see that the bottom screw here is the one that works the bottom end here, and the top one is the one that works the bigger cog. So as it's on the lower cog at the moment, I should be able to turn this, and you can see that derailleur is moving in as I tighten it up. Now what I want to be able to do is to change the gears and it still be fine. So if I go up into the next gear, the indexes aren't quite right. So I've gone up into the next gear. What I want to do, throw it down into 5th and see what happens. Now you can see that it's not quite going, so I know that there is not quite right on the gate. So if I just loosen it very slightly and then try again, still not quite there. Again, just loosening that screw, and there it goes. That's what I want it to do. I want it to just about go into that gear. I don't want it to go any further, because I do not want it to throw the chain off the cog. Okay, that's quite important to get that. So it's just so it's going in, and I can just test it again. Let's move it up into a higher gear, into a lower gear, sorry, and then drop it down into the last one. Bang, goes in. It doesn't go over the top, so that's set up correctly. Next one is to adjust the other screw. So this time we're going to adjust the screw at the top end. So let's move the thing up into its lowest gear, into 1st. So this one goes into 1st as it is. That's good. And if we check that screw, so this is the other screw now, and you can see if we look in the top that it's now contacting at that top corner. So I can adjust that screw, and as I turn it, you should see the derailleur move. And what I want is for it to be, again, just about go in. So let's try that. So here we go, down to second, and I'll trip it up into third. Okay, just goes in. So I'll adjust that screw a bit more. And what you do, if you adjust it so that it won't quite go into first by tightening it, then you can get it so it only just goes in. So there we are, I'm adjusting it a bit more there. Let's try it again. Down to second, and then, okay, just about goes up into first there. That's what we're looking for. Because this one's really important. If you go too far with this one, if you let it go too far, it'll throw the chain between the wheel and the cog, and that can jam the back wheel and throw you. So you really want that to be just about going in. Right, now the gates are all set up, I just need to sort out the indexing. Now, the indexing is pretty easy to do. It's to do with this tensioner down here that we looked at earlier on. So first thing I'm going to do, it's in fifth at the moment. If I click it up into the next gear and try, and you can see it's not moving. So what's happening is there's not enough tension in the cable. There's not enough tension to pull that thing across. So all I'm going to do is just add a little bit of tension by a couple of turns on that, and we'll try it again. If I just keep going, tensioning this, so I'm turning the screw so it's coming out a little bit. You see it's starting to click. Clicking a bit more. There it goes. Okay, it's gone in. So that should be enough tension. I'll double check by clicking it back down again. And there it goes. So just check through the whole gears. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just what I'm looking for. That's pretty much done. Sometimes you might find that things aren't indexing properly, so it'll be in fifth, but it won't go in up at the top. Often that's due to some sort of incompatibility between the two, between the derailleur and the shifter. You might have different makes on there or something. That can get quite frustrating. You can fiddle about with it for a little while, just try and get it tuned exactly so it works, but sometimes that's more difficult and you have to sort of apply other measures. If you look underneath where the cable attaches, then you'll find there's a sometimes you can turn the little clasp around and bring the wire in from the other side, and what that'll do is shrink that gap or expand the gap, in fact, that the wire's got to run in, and it'll slightly change the ratio between how far the shifter moves and how far the derailleur moves. So sometimes you can get away with that. If it just won't index at all, even though you've tried those, you're probably going to have to think about getting either a new derailleur or a new shifter and try and get the same make so they match. But that's that. Final thing to do then is we want to put chop off the cable and then put a little one of those little connectors on the end, which will stop it fraying. So we can do that next. Quite often those will come with the cable when you buy it. Sometimes you just buy a handful of them separately. Again, they cost not even pennies. They're really cheap. So all you do, you take the little end, get the camera in the right place, take a little end thing, and it goes, there we go, onto the cable like that. And then you take your wire cutters and you just bite into it. Don't chop it all the way through. You just bite into it in a couple of places and that will stay on. So here we are, just gentle squeeze in a couple of places, and there we go, that's on nice and tight, and that'll stop the cable from fraying. So if you ever need to take the cable off again, you need to just snip that off. But there we are, job done. One set of gears. Now, don't be putting loads of oil on this, because what will happen is road grime and things will just stick in all that and make it horrible. Something like WD-40, I know it's not technically a lubricant, but you spray this with some WD-40, it'll be nice and loose. It's the same with the chain, especially if you get any stiff links. All you do is you turn this round whilst you're spraying WD-40 onto the chain there, all the way around, and that will nicely lubricate the chain. It's a very light oil, so you won't get all sorts of grime and things sticking in it, and it'll help your chain last a bit longer. So that's that. Gears set up, all working. It's exactly the same if you look at the front derailleur, and again you can see on the top of the front derailleur 2 screws which are your end stops. So exactly the same. You go through, go all the way up and all the way down. Make sure you just go into them either side. That's it. Hope that's been useful, and hit subscribe if you liked it.